Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Monday. I hope you had an amazing weekend. So today I have your weekly dose of ghost stories and makeup for you all. This light. Sorry, I'm trying to organize my light so like it focuses better, but I don't know light science. Oh. So if this is your first time joining me here at the beginning of the week, today is where I take a little break from my normal makeup videos and concentrate on another passion of mine, and that is the paranormal and horror. And I share with you the ghost stories that my subscribers send in to me. Just a fact for you, because I see there's some confusion. Before I read these stories, I've never seen them, I've never read them. My older brother Marcus, who edits, who helps edit like videos and things like that for me and my brother, he does all the stories for me, all the audio, he gets all of that together. My brother who reads the actual segment in this video. So I never see these stories before, so it's my first time reading them. So I get a genuine reaction, and it's as new to me as it is to you. So that's what I do. If you have any ghost stories or paranormal experiences, weird people experiences, send them right here to this email address. Please don't send them to me on any other social media platform, because they won't make it into the video, because like I said, I don't organize them. So this series is very much based on Bailey Saren's Murder Mystery Makeup Monday. I will leave a link below to her channel, although I'm very sure you know who she already is. Okay, so today's theme, well, let me just, for some reason I bought this collection. I've never heard of this brand before, the Tapatio, and this is a collector's box from Hip Dot, and I've heard of Hip Dot, but not this like hot sauce thing, and here's why. I just thought it was really cute. Look, the little lip colors are hot sauces, and then you get these palettes, and then a bottle of hot sauce, which I'm never going to use, and then a beauty blender. So I bought this with my own money for some reason, but I do like a heavily themed collection. Like, I love theming. So what I thought I would do today is use that, because I probably would never use it otherwise. And I'm going to use the two palettes that come in with it. And I want to do today's look based on a true story. The backstory is, well, I mean, the ending bit isn't true because I'm still alive. But when my parents first met my now fiance, it was the first time they were meeting him, and we went to this restaurant around the corner. At the time, we lived in Swiss Cottage in London, and we went to this restaurant. It was amazing food. I can't remember what it was, but it was like really nice, like similar to like Wagamama's, but not at all. So no, it wasn't. And I always had the same meal, but I cannot eat spicy. I cannot handle it. And by spicy, I mean mild. I am the worst person when it comes to spice. For me, it's like a feeling. It's not a taste. I can't taste food when there's too much spice in it. So I ask for this same meal all the time with no chili. It had like chili flakes in and like bits of chili and things like that. So a bit must have got into my meal because I was eating it. And then I think a bit of chili got like between my gum and my cheek here. It was up here. And I just remember feeling like throbbing in my face, and my eyes started to water, and I went deaf in this ear, and then this side of my mouth felt all weak and numb, and I couldn't feel it, and it was pretty bad, and I kept drinking water and everything like that. But I want to take that to a point. I obviously I didn't die, I was fine. I want to take that to a point where I died from being too sensitive to mildly spicy food. So what I'm thinking is like a really red, sore looking eye blown out into like chili colours. So like greens and reds and oranges. Yeah, so let's see how my interpretations never turn out how I want them to. So we'll just the palettes are actually really, really cute. Look. Let's do it. Let's start with our first story. This first story is called Sixth Sense Friend. The best kind of friends. So it says, "Hi Robert, thank you for the makeup tips. Now I know why my Instagram makeup won't work for my skin. Humidity and oily skin is the worst combination for an IG makeup style. Anyway, I love your videos." Absolutely, it really is. Thank you so much. This happened to me when I was in high school, so 2009 to 2010. A little background. I don't have a sixth sense, and I don't want it, please. But one of my friends does. Also, before any of this happened, I've been having interrupted sleep. Like, I would wake up almost every night after 2 hours, from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. After school, my friend and I usually stay at my house to hang out. She'd tell me ghost stories she experienced, and one day I gave her a tour of the house, and her mood suddenly shifted. She was sensing something, and I didn't want to ask what it was. We went upstairs to my room, and she asked me if I sensed something. I said, please don't tell me there's a ghost in my room. But before I finished, she blurted out, there's a man in your room, but his intentions are not bad. More like he's just chilling out. She said it was just standing at the corner in my room. Then I told her about my strange sleeping patterns. And she said, you will wake up when someone is looking at you. Stop. I don't want this information. After that, I've been having sleepless nights because I can't take it off my mind. So please, if someone doesn't want to know that there's a ghost in their bedroom, don't tell them there's a ghost in their bedroom. I would be so pissed. Can you imagine someone just like, oh yeah, every time you wake up, it's because someone's looking at you. I think I would have to tape my eyes shut. No, thank you. My goodness me. But then also at the same time, imagine being used to seeing those kind of things and then just being like, oh yeah, there's a man, but no, it's not bad. He's just chilling out. Trying to explain why it's okay. Thank you so much for that story. Your friend needs to calm down. God, I would be so angry. So tell me, if you can speak to or see ghosts and things like that, are you also able to tell them to leave and stuff, or is that not really your place? Okay, so we have our first audio story today, and it's called Kidnapped.
Hi Robert, so it's late at night and I'm currently watching your ghost videos, so I thought it's the perfect time to send you one. So this one, it isn't actually a ghost story, but it's just a weird and creepy story, and it happened to me as a kid, and I didn't really think about it much until I was older and I told people about it and they were like, yeah, that's fucked up. So right, here we go. So me and my friend, we were in year 7. So how old does that make you? About 11? So about 11 years old, and we were hanging out at the local park. It was late evening, so probably about 8 p.m. And we were just hanging out at the park, and we noticed these 2 men in suits. And they were in fully black 3-piece suits and had black sunglasses on, so really smart. And they came out of a black car that pulled up at the side of the park, sorry. And they just came and sat on a bench and looked into the park. And we were like, okay, bit weird, but just 2 men at a park. So we carried on playing. And then we noticed they got the phones out. This was the time of flip phones. And they had flip phones just pointed towards us. And we were like, are they taking photos of us? Didn't know what were happening. We weren't the only ones at the park, thankfully. There was also a mother and her toddler on the swings. So we kind of kept an eye on these guys. But anyway, they went back to the car. The car pulled up again. They went back in the car, drove off for about 15 minutes, then came back. Same thing again, but they got a little bit closer this time, pulled the phones out, and just pointed them towards us. Same thing happened again. Car pulled back up 15 minutes later, got back in, came back 15 minutes later, but each time they were getting closer and closer to us. Never said a word, didn't say a word to each other. They were just getting closer and taking photos until the last time they did it, they were only I'd say about 5 meters away from us. And we were just like, okay, this is so weird. But we were little, so we didn't really understand what were happening. So we went up to the woman with her toddler and just told her what were happening. She instantly took a child away from the park and everything. And thankfully we saw an older boy from our school. As he were walking past, we were like, dude, there's these weird guys who keep coming up to us in full 3-piece suits, then getting in a fancy black BMW and driving off. We have no idea what's happening. It's really weird. And he was like, I'm driving you home immediately, this guy from school. So yeah, he walked us home. He lived on the same estate as us. And I don't know, I kind of just forgot about it. I was just like, oh, that was a bit weird. And then obviously later, as a teenager, I learned the word child trafficking. And I still, to this day, do not know who those men were, what their intentions were, if they were taking photos of us, and if so, what happened to those photos. All we were doing was sat on swings. We weren't doing anything particularly strange. I'd like to see what you think and what your listeners think, and yeah, it's a weird experience. Creepy one. Anyway, I love your channel. It's incredible. I actually like that there's a makeup artist out here who isn't full of drama and loves being spooky. So I appreciate it a lot. Anyway, thank you for listening to me creepiness. Bye.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that story. Here's what scares me, right, about being children, and how we educate children, and how we educate children to respect our elders and things like this. Yes, they absolutely should, but at the same time, it kind of puts this false sense of trust in every person who is older than them, every adult. So there's a balance, you know, that we need to teach kids about. It's like, trust your elders, but also be wary. Things like that as a kid, like you said, you don't think anything of these men sitting there taking pictures of you until it's almost very closely too late. And unfortunately, we live in a world that's dangerous and scary for young kids, especially young girls, not even young girls, women of all ages. So it's like, where do you find that balance? You know, that's absolutely terrifying. Thank you so much for that story. I do think it seemed a little bit organized, especially with them having these nice cars, all in the same, oh, that's the wrong product, all in the same, you know, suits and stuff like that. Yeah. What is it about men in suits as well? That's just generally quite scary. Okay, so our next story today is quite a short one. This is called Water Ghosts. It says, we lived in a house where a lady had committed suicide in the attic. Every time we would go into the dining room, we would hear bells jingling outside the window. The water would turn itself on and off in the bathroom, and the kids would say they feel like someone was laying on their chest. We never saw her prior to having our house renovated. We took this picture and we can see what appears to be a lady from the 20s era, looking to the right with what appears to be a cross on her chest. Oh, and there's a picture. Oh, I see. Okay. That's really... what is that? First of all, what is that in the middle? I do kind of see someone's face, but I can't... I'm having trouble seeing that. If anyone can see it, I do see like the cross shape. But then I'm seeing like a long like gown thing. I guess it's like what you take from a picture. That is so strange. Anyway, that picture in general is really strange. Yeah, that's a really weird picture. Thank you so much for your story. I'm gonna keep staring at that picture now because there's something in it. It's just trying to figure out what it is, you know? Okay, so next up, as is custom on Mondays, we have Marcus reading us some stories. Go ahead, Marcus.
Hi, it's 9:45, so this is the latest I've ever recorded these stories, and an hour past my bedtime, so I'm gonna hurry up. This first one is called Small Town Asylum. Trigger warning, there's all sorts of human experiments and scary stuff. Hi, Robert. This is by far the creepiest thing I've ever seen, and thought it might be good for your ghost stories. I live in a small town that boomed in the 1850s, and also housed an asylum from the 1860s to 1995. The asylum was notorious for admitting patients for poor reasons, such as women who became pregnant out of marriage, and also for its atrocious treatment of patients, including live experimentation. They used to do ghost tours there, and though they were often highly sensationalised, there were numerous reported encounters. I had one such encounter about 10 years ago. A friend and I went on one of these tours. As part of this, we went into what had been the women's section. In this ward there had been lobotomies, shock treatment, and other awful experiments. When we went, there was still dried blood and old equipment. Immediately upon entering, my friend and I felt sick. The smell was overpowering, and the air suddenly felt super oppressive. The tour guide was describing a story of a woman who scratched herself to the bone and eventually killed herself. The room was pitch black, but I could hear my friend scratching her arms, and I could feel something strange on mine. I grabbed my friend's hands to stop her. My friend spoke up that she needed to leave the room, so I followed her outside. In the light, I could see that she had some red marks from the scratching, but no skin was broken. However, she had what looked like dry blood underneath her fingernails and on her fingertips, and I had the same stuff on my arm. When my friend saw it, she screamed and the tour guide came outside. The tour guide saw it as well, but as soon as the guy touched my friend's hands, whatever it was vanished from the both of us. We both departed the tour early, and my friend had nightmares about the woman for weeks. We had not been told anything about the appearance of the woman, but my friend was able to correctly describe her based on the nightmares. The asylum is now my gym and an escape rooms, but only tourists are foolish enough to play the escape room. This second story is called The Owl Calls. Hi Robert, I've recently found your channel and I'm obsessed. I love your ghost story videos and I have one I think you might like. When I was about 13-14 years old, my friend and I went on a nighttime nature walk. The local museum was hosting an event where they would teach you about nocturnal animals and owl calls. We learnt several owl calls and were successful in getting some owls to hoot back at us. On the hayride back out of the woods, one of the older kids was telling us a story about a family that had been murdered in the woods after being stalked and separated. He said the parents and the children had secret owl calls they would do to let the others know they were okay or what their location was. It was a good story and we were spooked, but we didn't believe it. We couldn't find any information on it later when we researched it. Later that night, my friend and I were in the spare room at my parents' house with the door closed, and we were practicing the owl calls we had learned. Out of nowhere, someone else made an owl call back. I can remember the absolute terror I felt at that moment. My friend made another owl sound and it happened again, and then there was what sounded like someone's hand sliding down the door. We ran to the door and locked it, leaned our body weight on it, and started screaming for my parents. My dad came running down the hall and told us there was nothing there, and to go to sleep as he had had enough. We were terrified. We didn't speak of this again, and to this day I refuse to go back to the museum. We moved shortly after that incident. That was 15 years ago. I still speak with my old neighbours occasionally, and they tell me that no one has stayed in that house for longer than a year. Whatever followed us out the woods that night made our old house their home. Well, there you go. It wasn't too scary actually doing this at night, but... No!
Oh my god, that scared the shit out of me. As well, I'm sure he'll be just fine. Everything happens for a reason. Okay, what is next? Let me just get this in my eye. Okay, so our next story is called Smells Like Karen. Hi Robert, I love your channel. All things supernatural freak me the fuck out. Me too, but I love it. I probably shouldn't have watched the Hospital Haunting show as a child. What is that? I want to watch that. I've never experienced anything strange, but my husband has a sixth sense and has several incidences. Oh, I need to know every single one. Okay. Anytime we moved house during our marriage, I make him walk around the inside alone to see if he gets the feels or not. I think he passed this lovely trait on to our daughter as well. So this is one of our incidences that he experienced as a teen. Out of the blue one day, he told his mum that it smelled like Karen. My mother-in-law thought it was a... My mother-in-law thought it was weird and questioned him further. Her name isn't Karen, and they had no family named Karen. He told her he didn't know why, and it just smelled like Karen. A few days later, he opened his bedroom door to leave and there was a lady standing in front of him. He quickly closed the door and reopened it and she was gone. My husband told his mum what had happened and described what he had seen. My mother-in-law broke down in tears because she knew exactly who it was. Karen was my mother-in-law's best friend. Karen was one of my mother-in-law's best friends. She was murdered by her husband when my husband was still a baby. Karen used to babysit my husband when he was an infant. He has no recollection of her and never ever knew her name until the moment he smelled her perfume. That is crazy. I'm sorry, but kids are the worst. Haunted kids are the worst. That's a really touching story, but if my kid ever's like, you know, it smells like somebody you know who's passed away, I'll be like, shit, not in my house, not in my house. That's really nice though. That's a nice story. It'll be very interesting to hear your partner's other experiences. You may have sent some. We're still really far behind in reading out the story, so thank you if you have, and if you haven't, send them in. Thank you so much. Okay, let's listen to our next story.
Hi Robert, my name's Sammy. So I'm just gonna get straight into the story. It starts at my dad and my stepmom's house. Me and my older sister were staying there for Christmas, and we shared a room. There were twin beds, and they were on opposite sides of the room. Now, this room always had kind of like this creepy vibe. It was always cold and just felt a little uncomfortable to be in. But nothing had ever happened in the room. Well, I mean, of course, until that night. That night, my sister was weirded out for unknown reasons and asked, "Can I sleep with you tonight?" Thinking it was funny since I'm the baby sister, I went ahead and told her that she could sleep in bed with me, but I was kind of making fun of her about it. I slept against the wall, and she slept on the edge of the bed. And just to remind you, it's a twin bed, so we're like super close. And that night, we decided to sleep with the radio on. Now, that's not something we normally do, but for some reason that night we decided we would. And I'm a super light sleeper. Any change in sound whatsoever wakes me up. Like someone breathing differently will wake me up. So that night, while we're laying in bed, we're sleeping, and I can't tell you what time it was. It was the middle of the night though. I woke up to the volume on the radio slowly increasing. As it got louder and louder, I decided to ask, with my eyes closed, to my sister, "What are you doing? Turn that down." She replied, absolutely terrified, "I can't." Opening my eyes, I asked in a super irritated fashion, "Why?" And she said back, "I'm scared, I didn't turn it up." At this point, the radio was at maximum volume, absolutely blaring. That's when I noticed she was hiding under the blankets, like her head and everything. She was tucked under the blankets, scared. My heart started racing. Then something on the ceiling caught my attention. I glanced up and I saw our ceiling fan spinning faster than I had ever seen it before. It was rocking like it was about to fall, like just about to rip from the roof. My dad came in at this point and asked what the hell we were doing. I explained as quickly as possible that we didn't turn the radio up and that it had done it all on its own. Now, my dad is an avid believer in ghosts and all things paranormal. So he rushed straight over to the stereo and turned it off. And that's when he noticed the fan was going crazy. And so he walked back to the entrance of my bedroom and flipped the switch, turning the fan off. He told my sister to get into the living room, my sister and I, to get into the living room. And we booked it out of there. We were racing each other because we didn't want to be the last person in the room, you know? And so we all just kind of gathered into the living room. My stepmom had joined us there because obviously she woke up from all the ruckus. The only light in the living room at this time was a night light because, you know, it's in the middle of the night. No one's expecting to be awake. So we're all just gathered there talking about what had just happened and how strange it was. And since everyone in there believed in ghosts, we're all like, wow, it must have been a ghost. Like, that was so creepy. That's never happened before. That's when the TV turned on by itself. Now, this was in the early 2000s, so we had just basic cable, and there weren't very many channels, but some of them were just static. And when the TV turned on, it turned on to just a static channel. We all turned and stared at the TV in shock. Clearly, no one had turned it on. And my dad jumped up, flipped the channel so that it wasn't on static anymore, and started declaring, "This is my house. Get out. You are not welcome here." He stomped around, going from room to room, yelling into the dark, "Get out. You're not welcome." After my dad had felt he sufficiently yelled into all the rooms, we just stayed awake, hanging out together in the living room for the rest of the night. Now, that's the end of the story. Nothing else creepy has ever really happened in that house. But my dad did move out. He still owns it, but he just doesn't live there anymore. And it's the whole ghost thing wasn't why he moved out. It just happened to coincide with other things. But Robert, I just want to let you know I love your content so much, and I especially love that evil laugh you do. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank you so much. What an amazing story. You told it so well. That would just terrify the shit out of me. It's those ghosts especially that feel like they're trying to get a reaction from you. Like, why else would you turn everything on and make it louder and louder and louder if you're not trying to scare the person in the house, you know? I think that's when you can tell that a ghost is a real asshole. So we have one more story to finish up today's video, and it's called Ghost or Ghosted. Hi Robert, I absolutely love all your videos, but especially the ghost story ones. I find makeup videos so relaxing, but it's not often you see something else included to make it more fun. Such a great idea. Something weird as hell happened to me a few years ago in my hometown, and I still don't have a proper explanation for it. In the summer of 2015, I was sitting in a park in my hometown, writing in my journal, when a boy sat down next to me and said, "What are you doing?" He was really cute, and it was a really small town, so I didn't really think anything of it or immediately think he was creepy, but I closed my journal quickly anyway. I told him I was just scribbling my thoughts down, and he said it's not often you see people doing that nowadays. I didn't really know how to respond, so after a few seconds he continued to say he saw me sitting there and wanted to ask me out on a date. I found this very forward, but I was flattered and asked him if he wanted to take my number, because I had plans for that day. He said it would be better if I took his, which I thought was odd, but I typed his number down in my phone anyway. He told me his name, first and last, and I told him my name, and I had to go pretty soon. I was low-key freaked out when I knew I needed some time to process the unexpected male attention. He scooted off a bench and said, "Okay, see you soon," and walked away. I was half embarrassed, half crushing a bit, so I didn't watch him leave. But when I turned around after a few seconds, he wasn't there. Bear in mind, it's quite a large park. I wasn't quite sure which way he'd gone, so I shrugged it off. I texted his number straight away to say this is my number. And when I got no response after a few hours, I was just going to write it off as a typical idiot encounter. The next day I told my friend about it, and she's the kind of person who knows literally everyone in the town. And she said, "Wait, what's his name?" Stop. She told me the guy she knew with that name and description had been dead for 2 years. I was really freaked out, but assumed it was a prank. A few days later, I had the bright idea to look up his Facebook, and it was the exact same guy in the picture. A few people have written in memoriam messages on his page, but otherwise it hadn't been updated in 2 years. I still haven't received a message back from that number, and I have no idea if I was pranked somehow or if I actually met a ghost. My friend is convinced of the latter, but she's a lot more into paranormal stuff than I am. I wonder what people in the comments will think happened. Lots and lots of love and good makeup days. Thank you so much. That is creepy. That's kind of cute though. Like, ghost who's a teenager just wants to still, you know, talk to people, have like that kind of teenage experience. That's kind of cute. Yeah, I like that. So this is my person who died from eating like a level of spice that they can't quite handle. I've gone for like the green on the lid, a little bit darker here, and just like a red liner to make it look a little bit like, I want to look like that, you know, that guy who looks like he's straining his face. And also, actually, I've never used Hip Dot, is it called, before? It's a really nice formula, really nice. So I'll be going on their website after I do this. Thank you so much for all those stories. What a good group of stories again. Like I said, if you want to send yours in, go ahead and send them right here. I think today's stories are a great reflection of all the kind of different stories that I like, that we like to receive and like to read out. So, you know, a bit of everything. It doesn't have to be always ghosts. Thank you again for joining me. Have an amazing week ahead. I will see you Wednesday and Sunday, and double Sunday, because it'll be mine and my brother's joint channel, post on Sunday also. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you very soon. Bye.